All righty. Happy New Year, everyone. This is 2026, the first Tuesday evening for Tustin Longevity Center. Ask the Doctor Anything. And I don't know how many years we've been doing this. I think I did my very first video in 2006. That's when I first started, but I handed them out. It was like a CD. It was a dietary primer, we called it. We used to have everyone watch it. So yes, the it's just an interesting time. So welcome, Tustin Longevity Center, friends, family, our Tustin uh, TLC Health Freedom Tribe is what I'm trying to say. And we meet here every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock once a week, and we talk for an hour. And we do this because we love our patients and we like to create a vehicle for them to ask questions in generalities, how we would approach it. It's not for treatment through the YouTube or the practice of medicine. We have so many decades worth of experience in functional medicine, uh, integrative, natural, complementary, alternative medicine. I've been involved in this ever since I was 4 years old, and I'm 72 now. So I was in my father's Armor Food Research Lab, food taste testing, food research. So I have been around the problems that are being discussed. And it's good to see on YouTube the many discussions. And it's, after what? I've been practicing 45 years. I think I gave my first speech on healthcare and cancer on vitamin B17 when I was 18 years old or 19. I booked a room in my college campus and I put on the YouTube, not YouTube, we used to have these rolls of slides with a projector onto a white screen, and we would click or turn the dial, and each, it was like a square inch framing, and we would roll these tapes. It'd be a tape like this. You could roll it up and put it into a little round box, plastic box. And that was all on the topic World Without Cancer. That was put out by Edward Griffin, Griffin. And he wrote the book Creature on Jekyll Island. It was about the privately controlled stealing of the United States government from the oligarchs in Britain to begin the takedown of the United States of America and keep it as a colony of Britain. And they did it through centralized private banking. And I did that lecture on Laetrile, vitamin B17, World Without Cancer. So if you want to talk about experience, we here at Tustin Longevity are the epitome of experience in this field. It's good to see young people getting involved. It's good to see emphasis being drilled in to the natural hormones now in a more acceptable way, and the concept of blaming estradiol for the cause of breast cancer, and that's now been, I think, thoroughly put to rest. There's a good YouTube out there on it called FDA expert panel on hormones, and it was a panel that was held with the new administration, FDA, CDC, HHS, and it had many gynecologists and pathologists who now openly talk about natural hormone replacement therapy as safe, not blamable for cancer. Cancer is really now more and more being seen also as a metabolic mitochondrial disease. We burn out our mitochondria with our junk food, high carb, seed oil, hydrogenated fats. And see, fortunate for me, my father was in food research. And so he was involved in hydrogenating the fats for the very first TV dinners. I think it was put out by Swanson's. They were an affiliate with Armor Food, and they were starting all the TV dinners in the 1950s. And I was born in 1954, and so in the late 50s, I was there with my father at work in the research labs. My mother had broke her back or something. She was incapacitated for a while, so I had to go to work with my dad. And that's where I fell in love with chemistry and the bubbling bottles and all the scientists there and biochemists entertained me with chemistry, marvel acts of acid and base reactions. And I suppose that's what drove me towards that field. But again, this is all about, let's talk real experience. Let's not talk about certain doctors that see a financial trend that says healthcare now should be more about uh, life extension, anti-aging, hormone replacement, and they jump on a bandwagon, go to a medical conference, get a certificate, and I mean, you do have to start somewhere, and I do admit that I was blessed by God Almighty to have this incredible experience in food research. But I suppose what I'm asking for is I want to see the humility. I want to see the humility in these people. I understand righteous indignation and outrage for the corruption in our insurance and in pharmaceutical system and our state and local and federal representatives. Corruption, corruption, corruption. But I think it all comes from a lack of understanding why they have to become corrupt unless you have God in the center of your heart as your basis for wanting ministry. See, a person who really loves patience, loves to minister, helping relieve pain and suffering, prevent disease. These are people uh, who really, it all started out by after the explosion of growth of the Christian faith, when the early Jewish Christian church uh, started to be persecuted, and they left Jerusalem and they populated, the earth and the surrounding nations. You started seeing these monasteries and schools and hospitals and orphanages, and they were started by the Christian faith. And this liberty and the liberty and dignity of the individual, to understand that Christ is so died because he loves every individual human being. That kind of a religion spurred a bunch of people who just felt the presence of God in them by the Holy Spirit, and they wanted to minister that recognition, irregardless of sex, wealth, color of skin. They just loved humanity because God died for it. And all of history shows the greatest growth in civil and advanced civilization came from that spurring on and growth of the ministry of medicine. Now it has become a business, and it became a business somewhere around, the turn of the century of the 20th century, start of the 20th century. And that also is the same time when the Federal Reserve, 1913, the agents of the British oligarchs started to take over and make central banking in the United States. Then they could do the hiding and fraud and theft of all of our money and finance with endless dollars in their centralized bank that they just print out of nothing, and finance certain directions for things to go, both politically and developmentally in the pharmaceutical, glorify pharmaceutical. They could pay off news and media to destroy any natural therapies. So there was the Fisk report from Flexner report. The Flexner report in, I think it was 1907, he was commissioned. 1911, I think he got all this money to do it. And this is like from Carnegie and Rockefeller Foundation to study healthcare in the United States from the East Coast to the West Coast. And of course, they found a problem, and the problem was it wasn't uniform in 1911. If you had a fever and abdominal pain in, let's say, Wichita, Kansas in 1911, where they didn't, nobody had antibiotics and nobody had surgical sterile suites, but they were starting to finance and look at surgical suites in New York. Well, you couldn't get the same health care. There was no plane to fly to New York, no fast riding boat or train or horse. So the death rate from an acute appendicitis in Wichita, Kansas would have been higher than the death rate, let's say, in New York, where they were just beginning to experiment with the surgical suite and cleanliness and the application of anesthesias and so forth. So they pumped up this idea that healthcare is not equal, and how horrible is that? And we better demand and require federal involvement and laws about healthcare. And so, of course, they found out that chiropractors and osteopaths and naturopaths and other health healers, herbalists, essential oil remedies, all these things were declared as quackery, and they elevated only what would generally support the modern Western medicine era of petrochemical-based pharmaceuticals, surgery, centralized hospitals, and all points that could be managed, and the income stream raped by a small private banking cartels that, again, originated from England oligarchs, and thus began some of the formal full-time war on our United States independence from Britain. And it still goes on today, and it's they're terribly upset, I'm sure, about the loss of Maduro in Venezuela, which all this filthy money and private banking has to have finance outlets, you might say, to launder the money. And of course, sex trafficking and drugs is necessary for the fraud of the centralized banking system that comes out of the city of London in Britain. So we got to pray. We have to pray for this truth, and we have to pray for freedom in healthcare, freedom, and take on, again, the personal responsibility for our own behaviors and how we eat and how we exercise, and what good sleep hygiene we have, and what our exercise program is, and the peace and sharing we give and minister to other people. We all need to be ministered to. There's such wonderful breakthroughs in what you call energy medicine. Again, when I did my second doctorate in the late 1990s in integrative medicine, we did a lot of studying on energy medicine, and we had all the greats from all over the world on the energy in water, the energy in the atmosphere, the energy of the cell, the atom, all this kind of stuff, and how we are electrochemical beings. And now it's just being really amplified in knowledge through the original work. I want to honor Dr. Potts in the Netherlands and Dr. Ling in China. These men in the early 20th century did a tremendous amount of work on energy, frequency, and water in the living plant and human and animal. And then Dr. Gerald Pollock picked up with that, a lot of work in Russia on this. So God is talking and leading us into truth. all throughout the world. And the media, which has been up until recently largely been controlled by the oligarch out of London. And the opiate wars and how London destroyed China originally with opium and killed off their youth. That's what they tried to do here in the United States with this financing these Caribbean private banks to launder their slush money for their printing money and their lies and fraud. And the drugs came into our country and have almost devastated a generation and a half of youth. But by the grace of God, we will expose this evil intent, and we will restore truth and transparency and lawful constitutional money. In the Constitution, it's such a tiny little book. I wonder if I have one here. I don't see it right off the bat, but it's a little tiny book. We should read it, know it front and back. The Constitution puts out what is considered lawful money. A troy ounce of silver, 99.9% troy silver per ounce weight, is golden tender is the legal tender for all debts. So this fiat money, the petroleum dollar, it's all a perversion. Just there's so much going on, you can't know. We're all too stupid. We're all too dumb. You can't figure out economics. You're not a PhD in economics. We're dumb. So we just have to be little slaves with our leash around our neck and let the big daddy-os in banking and government, Secretary of Treasury, all these big oligarchs lead us around. Well, no, I'm sorry, I can read, and I know what the Constitution says, and I know that our forefathers wanted us to have freedom of choice in religion and in healthcare and in our food freedom for our health and our private property and our rights to defend it and owning arms. And I've read the Constitution, and it does say that we should have a gold and silver as a tender for payment in debts and freedom, and get away from this central banking that destroyed England, and our forefathers knew it, and that's what they gave us, and that's what we need to return to. Otherwise, healthcare is going to be very corrupt. You're not ever going to legislate anything over hundreds of millions of people, let alone the whole planet, that is going to be not fraught with fraud, because we're basically sinners. I struggle every day to do my best and not sin. It was funny. There was this person I was examining today, and I could tell I was examining his stomach, and I was feeling his pulse in his femur, right at his femoral pulse there. And I could feel this big money clip in his pocket. And oftentimes when people lay down on the bed, their change or their keys or their phone will fall out of their pockets. And I don't make a lot of money doing this. And I thought, oh God, if that big hunk of money in his wallet or money clip fell out, would I have the integrity to return it to him? Because who could say that his cash was his cash? You know what I mean? When you see a wad of a roll of money. And you see, even I second guess myself and saying, would I have the integrity to do what is right for my brother? See, as a Christian, we're to love our enemies. We're supposed to do good to them that despitefully use us. And we're supposed to minister to them. And as a doctor, I'm supposed to treat everyone, no matter what your faith or your sex or your color of your skin or your politics. I'm supposed to treat you as a human being with dignity, and that God died for you. My first thought was, oh, if that fell out, wow, I could get a few extra dollars. See, we're all sinners. Fortunately, it didn't fall out. So don't anybody come claiming my wallet fell out. But you see, you can't legislate good health practices or good, anything has to be with a human being taking personal responsibility with their creator watching over their behavior and their accountability. Anyway, that's a long opening up to our visit today, the beginning of the year. Uh, Freedom becomes a personal responsibility starting right where you're sitting right now, wherever you are. How are you going to treat your brother and yourself and God? If you can have integrity in your intention to do only good to your brother, even your enemies, only be just and righteous. God did give authority to punish evildoers. That's Romans chapter 13. Then, then there's the best hope that we'll have the greatest amount of good health care and stop this corruption of the mafia in the insurance companies, the corruption of the mafia in the hospital healthcare systems and pharmaceuticals. It's a mafia, folks, and it feeds off our sinful nature. So let's keep people healthy so we don't need as many hospitals. Let's keep people healthy so we don't need as much surgery or um, X-ray machines and treatment machines. But that's not a business that makes money. But if you love people and you're in one place and you see them for decade after decade after decade, and you see their children grow up, and then you start seeing them have children, you start realizing you're a pretty old doctor, and but they become your family. I was thinking over the holidays on around the Christmas. I worked all through Christmas and all through New Year. Of course, I didn't work New Year's Day or Christmas Day, but I don't take time off because very often this is the time people bring their college students back in and they want us to be open, to be cared for, to be checked in on. And it was a pleasure. It was almost like I was seeing my nieces and nephews. I was seeing my sisters and brothers. I was seeing my aunts and uncles. It was like 2 weeks of homecoming for a lot of people. And so this is what we love in medicine. This is what we want to do in medicine. This is what we want to become. And everyone says, how do we fix healthcare? You got to find people who see it as a ministry and not as a prideful, prestigious job and high paying. Okay, let's look at our questions. If you want to get a hold of us, you can email us at tlcdoctors.com, tlcdoctors.com, and get on our newsletter and get, you can type in on the link there when we do this every week, or you can be on YouTube and type in. And we have some live questions. I'll get to. Hello, Dr. E. If a person thinks they may have mast cell activation syndrome, where would they start for a diagnosis? I would suppose you would work with either a rheumatologist, they should know how to do that, or a infectious disease specialist. Internal medicine, family practice also is beneficial. Mast cell, we have mast cells, we have immune cells all over us. The greatest amount is lining our gastrointestinal pathway, our GI system. And so food and chronic leaky gut, plant anti-nutrients like oxalates and phytates and tannins and lignans and all these plant chemicals are caustic and poison to tiny little bugs and fungi. They're irritations to us chronically, and over time they injure us along the one cell lining of our gut. And then we start getting leaky gut, which amplifies up the immune system, which amplifies up molecular mimicry and cross-referencing our own tissues, and our immune system overreacts, and they call that mast cell activation syndrome. So if you were my patient, I would say start with a carnivore diet, find out your blood type, start working on eating only in a certain window of time, like breakfast to 3 p.m., stay well hydrated, and do weight training and aerobic exercises 3 times a week for each of those activities. And get a food allergy, get a complete digestive stool analysis, try and find a functional doctor who understands what the complete digestive stool analysis is. It'll do the lactoferrin, calprotectin, and lysozyme, and it'll do secretory IgA, the flora, microbiome. It'll look at digestive enzymes, short chain fatty acids, protozoans, and viruses, and screening. So it's a complete stool analysis. And then by your age, whether or not you need hormones, looking at your sugar metabolism, so you don't grow yeast and fungi. So all those things need to be looked at. But we really believe mast cell syndrome starts from eating plants, processed foods that have lectins in it that are irritants to the lining of the gut, that create these holes, that create the food transfer into the lymph system of our body, which alarms our immune system. And we do it day after day, thousands and thousands of times, decade after decade. And then the immune system just finally goes nuts and flips the switch and just overreacts all the time. So that's how I would begin to start looking for diagnosis. Pam James says, excellent book. You mean the one I called World Without Cancer by Edward Griffin, or his book that he wrote on the Federal Reserve System hoax, that it's a privately owned bank and there's nothing federal about it? Everyone should have read that. I don't know how, I must have been, I was a teenager when I first read that book. No, I was in fourth grade in Mrs. Nace's class in Bloomingdale, Illinois, was my grammar school. I think they tore that old building down. It was originally a two-room school, and then they built on a whole section with a gym later on by the time I got there. But Miss Nace, I remember her crying and when I was in fourth grade when President Kennedy was shot on the radio, and school was dismissed. But one day we were talking about conspiracies and stuff from the JFK killing, assassination, and I brought out the encyclopedia because we didn't have computers then. So I took the encyclopedia under F, and then I looked up the Federal Reserve System, and right in the Encyclopedia Britannica, I showed Mrs. Nace and all the fourth graders in my class. The Federal Reserve System is a privately controlled bank, and not federal. And Mrs. Nace's jaw dropped when she saw that. Now, I had learned this from my father. Remember, I had been going into his stock bond meetings and his chemistry classes, and he had been a Republican Party precinct captain, PTA president. My dad was a remarkable man and is a remarkable man. I also witnessed him accept Jesus Christ as his savior when I was around 18 years old. I got to see him get baptized and saved. And then he also became a member of the John Birch Society, had a chapter meeting there. And so I got exposed to all this educational material, all these great books to read. And that's where I got it from. So I'm not that smart to figure it out. But yeah, that's where that came from, that excellent book. Okay, Dr. Rita says from Gwendolyn, hi, Dr. Rita, how would you explain the science behind women using progesterone cream for the second half of their cycle? For my sister, age 45, thank you. Well, by the time a woman today is 45, she's typically entering into menopausal irregularities and not ovulating. Stress is so high. The cortisol from our stress is suppressing the pituitary hypothalamic axis, so that luteinizing follicle stimulating hormones are blocked with high cortisol from stress. So even teenage girls and 20 and 30-year-olds are not ovulating as much. Our whole fertility is dropping, plus many other factors like heavy metals, mineral deficiencies, zinc deficiencies, D deficiencies, good fatty acid deficiencies, sticky, clogging, insulin, stressful, high carb diet, and that lack of healthy foods is creating a metabolic stress, and therefore girls aren't ovulating. And so we're going into menopause much earlier. Again, when I was in my early practice of medicine on active duty in the late 70s, I saw women as late as ages 61 just wrapping up their menstrual cycle in menopause, 58, 59, 60, 61. I think 61 was the oldest woman I saw naturally ovulate. Although I have one woman currently in my practice still, and she is, I don't know, 88, 89 years old, somewhere there. And she still makes her own estradiol. Can you believe that? All I have to give her is progesterone. So progesterone is produced by ovulation. One egg is developed every month on one ovary, then the other ovary. And that empty sac that the egg was in then becomes called a corpus luteum, and it generates progesterone for approximately 10 to 14 days. That progesterone then builds up in the woman and it'll clean out the uterine cycle. It'll help stimulate the uterine contractions and cleansing of the estrogen buildup of the lining of the uterus. And this should happen every month. So if you're getting into menopause, that ovulation is not happening. So you're only getting these irregular and heavier or absent missed cycles, and you're not ovulating, and there's no control, no balance, no protection of progesterone every month, so that estradiol becomes dominant, estrogen dominant, and you get fibroids and irregular bleeding and heavy bleeding, and you get cramping, and so forth and so on. So we tend to tell women by the age of 45, it's not really easy for a doctor or a gynecologist or a family doctor to manage a woman, because maybe sometimes she'll try to ovulate, maybe sometimes she won't. So I just tend to tell a woman to use progesterone either the first 2 weeks of every month or progesterone the last 2 weeks of every month. And just I take the lead then. And the progesterone would then provide the balance and the protection and the sleep and the bone building and the immune health and metabolism support that progesterone would give. So that's what I would tell her. Hopefully that helps. um, she went on to say also, my sister is currently on testosterone, but her doctor said no progesterone until menopause. Well, I even give progesterone to teenage girls. I tell the teenage girls to use it day 15 through 25 of their cycle, 15 through 25 of their cycle, to keep them getting some progesterone every cycle for about at least 10 days. I disagree with what her doctor is saying completely. There's a book out there called Estrogen Matters by Blooming, Bluming. Dr. Lee, Lee, he's long dead though. He started in the 1970s when I first became a practicing physician. I was involved in, vitamin shops and home health care, alternative medicine with my dad, chelation therapy, blah, blah, blah. I had all that. And I started learning about natural hormones in the 1970s. So that's more than 50 years of experience. And Dr. Lee, I forget his first name, Lee, and progesterone. You'll see his book on progesterone and all the natural and female menstrual cycle problems he solved, PMS and irregular bleeding and amenorrhea and acne problems, sleep problems, anxiety. All these things were helped with it. So Dr. Lee, maybe it was John Lee, if I remember. Or look at the book Estrogen Matters. Barefoot in the Garden says, hi, Dr. Rita. Do you have any tips for a kid with a dry cough, likely due to nasal drip and mucus in the throat? We live in the Midwest where it's cold and dry, no sun. Thank you. Yeah. Do you have cats and dogs that are living in the house? Do you have carpeting? Do you have plants in the house? All these things are immune stimulants that can grow mold in the plants and in the soil. The animals can have their hair and dander. Very often the animals hop on the couches and the beds, and every time you sit, you'll get a plume on your chairs of all this cat and dander. Um, find out the blood type of the child. In general, A type blood has a lot of problem with immune health because they don't make enough digestive enzyme and stomach acid, so their immune system can't keep up with providing good extraction of zinc from their food, and their many other aspects of their diet is not well absorbed, and they tend to get more postnasal drip. Um, the humidity drops, and then the lining of the sinuses worsen. They often become mouth breathers, and they get dry mouth. You try and get them to, they could tape their mouth. We're giving them drinks full of milk, which has been processed with pasteurized, homogenized dairy, which is very allergy inducing. Cheeses and dairy are all pasteurized, homogenized, and these kids are eating it, the cheese on their hamburgers, on these junk food things. The wheat, if they're an O in particular, O type blood kids are especially drippy, nasal congested with grains, all grains, whether it's wheat, rye, barley, aramath, oats. And so there are so many problems with today's environment. So uh, I grew up in the Midwest. I'm B type blood, and B's type blood have the worst allergies. Uh, Fortunately, my dad did all the right things. I had a bowl full of vitamins from the age of, I don't know, 3, 2, I don't know. But I've had vitamins every day of my life. And then I had chelation therapy since my teenage years unto present. So I have been a vitamin processing machine. As the food system got corrupted and the toxins increased, I just became a vitamin machine to help get rid of it. And I drink only water and black coffee. I'll have a occasional alcoholic beverage. Um, but my dad had, water. He would soak towels and just hang them on the back of a chair in the room and change them up every night. We grew up in a one-room home. We only had a fireplace and a potbelly stove. Later on, as I got older, he did get a gas heater in the house, but we never had a toilet until I got married to my husband, John, at 17. So there you go. Life is funny. Uh, so those are some of the things. Now, what could you use? I would have them take vitamin C. That's a natural antihistamine. Vitamin C orally. I would take that 1 or 2 grams twice a day orally. I would take quercetin. I would take a 200 milligram capsule 3 a day. You need 600 milligrams of quercetin. And we have both the buffered C. Buffered C is probably the best way to take it. I open up the capsules. I just take this. I have it here all the time. So I talk all the days of my life. Every day of my 72 years, I'm just talking, talking, talking. And I'll take my vitamin C, my buffered capsule, and I'll just unscrew the bottom of it and take the cap out. Now there's no vitamin C in it. It's all in my mouth. I do that several times a day. I take the quercetin, 600 milligrams a day minimum. I drink my water all the time, every day. Do my exercise every day. And I did my fast. I'm only on now a carnivore diet, 100%. And so I just do what I can to stay well. There you go. So that's what I would suggest for the child. And then see your local doctor and find out their blood type. Try and give them these nutrients. I would also give them vitamin D, at least 1,000 to 2,000 units, depending on how big they are. If they're 80 pounds or more, I'd treat them like an adult. The next one is, what is the venous and lymphatic system? Mano says, venous and lymphatic system. We have arteries that pump the blood from the heart to the body that's oxygenated. Then it goes to its end point and in a capillary bed. And then after the oxygen is used up, then that turns into the venous system that brings the blood back to the lungs to get aerated and then dumped into the heart on the left side to get squirt out again for another cycle of oxygenated blood. The lymphatic system is another parallel system. It doesn't have per se any pump. It works on the structured water concept, that there's a structured water lining every cell membrane in a human body. And the material in the lymph, the kind of like a, you might say, a sewage system, immune sewage system throughout the body, drains the tissue, the interstitial tissue, and it's dropped back in to the body's system for processing, and is just a fluid cleansing system, cleansing cycle. So all of these depend on not eating a high sugar processed food diet, drinking enough water, motion and exercise, and good sleep at night, and enough sunshine that stimulates the water molecules to turn into structured water, lining all the cells and lining of all the vessel pathways. So whether it's the oxygenated blood, the deoxygenated blood in the vein, or the kind of waste interstitial drainage, so to say, sewer system of the lymphatics that are sent back for cleansing and reactivation into the bloodstream. These are our ways to stay healthy. Hopefully that helps you. And then let's see, Marielle says, how often do you recommend the chelation IV? In general, I think everyone, well, I know every human being since I was age 16 and got my first chelations, we all are exposed to heavy metal toxins. They're everywhere, and they're absolutely immune destroying, cell damaging, linked with carcinogenesis, cancers, heart disease, dementia. And they're only brought out with chelating or heavy metal grabbing capacity molecules in EDTA, chelation. Ethylene diamine tetracetic acid is a man-made amino acid that attracts these cations. All toxins are cations. They have a charge, a double positive charge. And EDTA is negative, so it'll grab onto it. That's the Latin word chele. In Latin means a claw. And if this is the nasty metal, it'll grab onto it and pull it out of the body through the urinary systems. It's extremely safe and life-saving, and we all should do it. So I recommend everyone get about 40 IVs through the American College for the Advancement of Medicine, acam.org, acam.org. And then you'll get a gentle cleansing. We can't do it fast once a week or twice a week at the most under unique special conditions. I've done it up to 3 times a week. And then after you've done the 40, then I would drop to doing, maybe 6 a year or 4 a year the rest of your life, because you're always eating, breathing, and drinking in heavy metal toxins. So that would be how often. I just had mine today with my high dose vitamin C. And Deborah Vishulis, my sister, my older, ancient, big older sister is on here. And she said, can a person take digestive enzymes by opening the capsule and taking in the mouth directly and follow up drinking water? Yes. Yeah, you can do it that way. If a person has severe trouble swallowing capsules, yes. She's sending me love hearts. I love you too, Debbie. And Happy New Year to your family and you, my dear sister. And yeah, they can do it. But just make sure you ate something. Remember, digestive enzymes are supposed to be for digesting your food. So you could open it up and maybe put it in instead of right into your mouth. Why don't you put that into some applesauce that's unsweetened, natural applesauce, or natural yogurt? Just open up the whole capsule or two and then finish eating your food. That's the way I do it for people who have trouble with that. But Debbie, my sister, I'm so proud of my grandson, August, who's fighting off the leukemia. He has so many vitamins to take. He has a morning and an evening bag, and I would say there's 10 or 11 capsules and chewables in each bag. And I see that little 5-year-old, he just turned 5, take that little tablet, he puts it in his mouth, he sips his uh, electrically structured water by Dr. Polak, and he swallows it down. And he understood, I have to tell my mind to swallow that. And I'm just so proud of him. So there you go. Let's do some of these right here. These are the ones that were emailed in. Oh, Debbie, I have a joke for you. Okay, so if farmer A grows corn and farmer B grows soybeans, then what does farmer C grow? And you wait a minute and you tell them, uh, what does farmer C sell or grow? Medicine. He's a pharmacist. Pharmacy. Okay. Hi, Debbie. Oh. So our dad was just a special scientific dad. And wouldn't Daddy have liked that joke? What does farmer C sell? Because he bought that farm for Mr. Steinhoff to work while he went into the lab every day in the city. The farmer grew corn or soybeans on our farm. And then Daddy would have enjoyed that joke, right, Debbie? Ha ha ha. Okay, thank you. You're laughing. Thank you. I was waiting for your laugh, Debbie. All right. And you're not that old. You're beautiful. All you girls were so beautiful sisters. And I was the baby, and I would always say, "Oh, it's so beautiful, Debbie." And Debbie and Don would go to the prom and go to the homecoming and go to the science fair and the ball and everything. You girls were also, me too, right? I never went to a prom. The only time I wore a long dress in my stupid life was on my wedding day. Anyway, yeah, maybe I was okay looking on my wedding day. All right, there we go. Let's go to these things here. Kathy, Dr. E, is it better to take probiotic 225, phospholipids, and SBI Protect powder with or without foods? Well, essentially, the SBI Protect and the phospholipids should be taken without eating. Okay, so it's literally helping to line and heal the cell membrane as you swallow it down, because it's a single cell membrane all along the tube. The probiotics are going to be anytime it's fine to use. Now, you'll get benefit from the phospholipid and SBI Protect powder no matter what. Very often they're prescribed twice a day. The phospholipid fats, which help structure the lining of the cell membrane, and the SBI Protect has the protein and the immunoglobulin A to help the immune system and healing of the gut. So technically it would be better without food and twice a day. The probiotic 225 anytime with or without food, but you only need it once a day. And it's sold in a box of, I think, 15 servings once a day for 2 weeks. That's generally what they say if you ever have an antibiotic. Please take this to try and help heal and restore your gut. The next one, Amela. Hello, Dr. E. My 16-year-old had blurred vision and was lightheaded after dental filling. Oh, about 1 hour after the procedure, she was back to normal. Dentist said to test her for methemoglobinemia. This was my daughter's first dental work, and she was really scared. What are your thoughts? Well, the Procaine local anesthesia that they numb you with is associated with having problems with the delivery of oxygen and physiology, and this can be associated with dizziness, blurred vision, feeling imbalanced, and it's metabolized quickly, typically in the human body. So within the hour, it's gone. But this probably is a reaction to Procaine and local anesthesia, you have her see the local doctor there, the pediatrician, and check for methemoglobinemia and see if she has a lot of that, because that is in particular something also that has a potential genetic link. Unlikely. I mean, I've seen people with this and they didn't have methemoglobinemia. But yeah, I have the pediatrician check her blood. But that's from Procaine. Sharon says, how do you recommend treating vulvodynia? Vulvodynia is pain in the female skin, lips, vulva, vaginal area. Just pain in general down there. Um, the cause is unknown, not in general understood. Inflammation to the nerves, our lousy diet, our lousy premature aging and loss of hormones, too early of menopause, lack of hormones, thinning of the skin. It's always moist and somewhat acidic there, so you can get pain there. Most women don't drink enough water. Most women overbathe and soap and wash themselves there as the skin is getting thinner and thinner and lack of hormones. And then all the chemicals in their polyester clothes, their underwear. So using cotton, only natural, good aeration, getting rid of all these perfumes and polyester clothes, getting on natural hormone replacement therapy with good functional doctor, getting hydrated, eating a rich phospholipid, healthy fats, linoleic, alpha linoleic acid, the only two human essential fatty acids that we have in the clinician's preference oil or capsules. And then exercise, you can get pelvic floor physical therapy by an experienced pelvic floor and the muscles of the pelvic lining there. We need to know your blood type, your age. We need to know your general insulin, metabolic, blood sugar metabolism. Very often, the high carb diet has generated a generalized acidic body, which amplifies pain, clogs off capillaries, and starves oxygen for tissues, which amplifies lactic acid production and pain. So it's a vicious cycle, and you have to go through lifestyle changes to improve it. Okay, and then let's see what's next. Um, and then systemic enzymes for vulvodynia. Once we clean away anything inflamed like that, I would use chelation therapy for microcirculation, high dose vitamin C to quiet things down, restore the hormones, a rich, healthy fats and protein diet, very limited carbs, exercise with your hormones, systemic enzymes, and then follow up with a good functional doctor. The next one is Chuck says, why is Western medicine with regards to testosterone levels reflects such low numbers for men today? How do we manage to get the correct levels as the system gives us limited avenues with side effects in the process? Well, Chuck, call your congressman, 202 224, no, 202 224 3121. Yeah, 202-224-3121. I was right. That's the switchboard at the Capitol, and it'll answer. The lady will say, Capitol switchboard, how can I help you? And you just say, I want my congressman or the HHS Kennedy or the office of the president or vice president or your senators or congressman. And then you can do it for your California or whatever state you're listening from. And then you tell them you want to get rid of this industrialized, industrial farming, the chemtrails, the fluoride and chlorine in the water. You want to get rid of all this processed food subsidies to the crappy Kellogg's and General Mills and Nestle mega corporations raping us and the dyes and the oxidative stress, and get rid of the fluorescent lights and get back to the natural condensate light with infrared, and get back to doctors not having this pressure on them to specialize, but to become local family community doctors, loved and cherished by thousands of patients in their community. I can't think of a better goal in life is to be a doctor in one spot, loved by hundreds and thousands of people. I feel it, and I would, God help me, I would never want to make a mistake or harm anyone. But this excess of laws and rules, we have to have well-educated, IQ, intelligence, verified uh, chemistry, biochemistry more required in the training of all the doctors to understand the sophisticated physiology and science that they need today. You have to understand energy medicine, uh, acid base material. You have to understand the light and the value of sunshine, the photosynthesis of plants. You have to understand how stress and the hypothalamic axis and the gut and the whole body synchronizes. We have to have doctors who are willing to humble themselves and either get back in school, study it themselves, and use medicine as a last choice and have many more follow-ups. I mean, we've tried some lifestyle change and within a month, follow up, 2 months, 3 months, follow up. How are you? Did it help? That's the kind of medicine we need. And that's what happened to the testosterone levels. All these pollutions, dioxins, pesticide, glyphosate, genetic modification of food, high carb clogging process, hydrogenated fats, stress, energy, EMG waves. All this has oxidized and burnt off and injured the energy production of the cells. So the testosterone production drops off. And this is just horrific. The level of testosterone in men today is 200, 250. When my father died just 10 years or so ago, he was 86 or 7 years old. And even without testosterone, his testosterone level was 800. No, he grew up healthy. He took vitamins. He was chelated too. But only a rare man today, a rare man in my practice is in the 800s, 900s, 1,000. So, yeah, without testosterone. All right, so the next question, let's see, is let's do these last ones on the live. Marielle says, do they listen? Do something about it? Yes, they will. And yes, it is changing, Marielle. Your call makes a difference. I make that call over and over and over again. And so call 202-224-3121. The switchboard answers, who do you want? You say, I would like to speak to someone from the office of so-and-so. You leave the message and then you call them again in a week. These people are tracking your votes. It's like being on X and leaving a statement, but you're going right to the heart of the leadership. If they know that see, they want you to think, oh, you're just dumb. You're just a little slave. You'll eat anything we give you. No, you let them know you're holding them accountable. And yes, it does make a difference. Believe me. Yeah, I'm talking about the congressman. Yeah, I listened to the podcast of Gary Brecka and the new head of FDA, Dr. McCary, and I'm hopeful. Yes, absolutely. And then what you can do is call that number and say, I want the FDA, Dr. McCary, and leave them an encouraging statement. Man, every time you guys say something good or you do a thumbs up, and by the way, if this is of value, please thumbs it up and please share, like, and subscribe. It makes a difference and we'll help one another. I don't get a dime. This is not monetized at all. I just love my patients and I just love a means to help them and their family and my family. See, my family's on here. Debbie is on here too, my sister. So there you go. So we are 6:59, and let me see if there's a question I can answer here quickly. Patsy said, I have read that liposomal vitamin C is better than just taking regular vitamin C. Is this true? I would say the answer, Patsy, is yes. Liposomal vitamin C, but the only proven company that I know of, maybe there's other that have, because I don't know everything, but Livon, Livon, Dr. Thomas Levy, Levey, MD, and Doctor of Jurisprudence, a lawyer. He's both a doctor and a lawyer, and he has all these YouTubes Dr. Thomas Levy, liposomal vitamin C, and he's on the board of Livon, and he has done testing with it. So is the Rorden Clinic in Wichita, Kansas, and Dr. Honeycutt. Lots of data on that. So I would say, yes, it is better. What exactly does VitalZymes do? These are systemic enzymes, Patsy, that they are able to chew up bad misfolded enzymes, proteins, polypeptides, debris, broken down cell material. These systemic enzymes can break up an aging dead cell so a new one can come in its place. We need this in every part of our body. And guess what? We don't make with age. We lose our hormones, we lose our enzymes, we can't digest as well. And so we break it down faster, quicker, and then we die. So those of us who take our digestive enzymes with age, those who take our systemic enzymes with an empty stomach, those who take your hormones, those who do some chelation, those who take my favorite antioxidant protection is Juice Plus, the most researched nutraceutical, those who take vitamin D, those who take the TLC albion chelated, these are amino acid chelated minerals like manganese and molybdenum and copper and magnesium and so forth. These are people who are going to live a very long time, hopefully. Did you hear that, Jesus? All right, so praise the Lord. All right, so it's 7:01. I'm going to say good night. I have a full day of work tomorrow. Again, like and subscribe if this is of any benefit to you. Please share with one another. I'll be back next Tuesday on 6 o'clock in the evening to 7 p.m. All right, take care.